Hi, welcome to our acrylic lesson for October. If you're like me, you've probably got a whole batch of paintings that you weren't that happy with. I often do them and then I think at the time, oh, yeah, that's all right, and then later on I look at them and think, I don't really like that. So today what I'm going to be doing is taking one of my canvas little acrylics and reworking it. I'm not going to use a reference. I'm going to put away the reference photo and just use what's on the canvas already to inspire me to continue and create a different painting. Hope you enjoy the lesson. Oops, one more to go. I'll just pop that out. So here's my canvas. There are my paints right next to it, all set out on the palette. This time I'm not using my Stay Wet palette, I'm just using the normal palette lid. I've got something else going on my Stay Wet palette. You'll notice I put out a lot of the two lights, the tinting and the Naples, and very little of the rest. That's because the lights, what I'm going for is a contrast, but I don't need a lot of the darks, but I do need quite a bit of the lights and to tint things. I'm going to start with the sky and work my way down. So what I'm going to do is just mix up a bit of this Naples yellow with some of the gloss gel, split that up. I'm making myself a few piles, a bit more of the tinting white now into it. Split that up and add some more tinting white. And then split that up and get a very light one there. And so now I just want to start putting in some colour with the, and I'm not even going to be thinking now about my reference. I used my reference for the idea of it, but now I want to just see where my imagination can take me with this one. I also want to take some of those colours as I'm putting them through and just pull them down into the water here. So I get a little bit of continuity there between the sky and the water. So I'm just using those vertical pull down strokes for the reflections of the sky and these sliding strokes there. In between mixing the colours, I'm going to just wipe my palette knife off on a rag. I want to put in some of the sky, well actually right now I'm going to add in some of the warmer reddy sort of colour. So I'm just mixing a little bit of that alizarin in with it, and that's just going to pull off there. There we go, mixing it in. I'm not really following what was underneath, I'm just seeing what happens and letting the colours just work together intuitively. So still going down there. I want to put in some more of the sky now, so what I'm going to do here is take a little smidge of purple. It's probably too much, so put a bit back. And a little bit of the turquoise, and then a whole lot of the white. Mix that all together with some of the impasto gel. So you can use matte, or you can use satin, or you can use gloss. I'm going for a bit of a glossy look here. So I've got a sort of lilac colour now that I'm going to start putting in across the sky there. I'm just going to run that and let the other colours mix with it with my palette knife. You can see I'm just smoothing that across there. And already I think it's a more interesting painting than the one I had. Got a nice lot of movement going on in the sky. I'm going to add in now a little bit of cerulean and that turquoise, a little bit of the white, a little bit of the impasto gel. Give that a mix up. That's quite bright, so maybe knock it back slightly. I'm going to green it off a little bit with the turquoise. I'm just going to put a few bits of those coming in a few spots there. And instead of having it sweep like the clouds, I'm now just running my palette knife across to kind of smooth it out a little bit more. And then have it come a little bit across these other ones. So I'm going to darken that up again, taking a bit of the purple and adding it back into that mix. Quite a bit of it, because I want some dark clouds going across there now. So now I'm just going to add in a small amount of the texture gel there. A little bit more of the dark, so I get a nice dark, deep cloud coming across the top there. Just see how that works. I might not like it, and it might just all come out. It's a chance for me to put in some more contrast there. I'm not sure how I feel about that, so what I'm going to do, while I think about it, is put in the lamb form there. And I'm just picking it up on the edge of my palette knife and pulling it down in various ways, various angles, so that I get a bit of texture in the land mass. I don't want to forget that this one went round the corner, so I'm just adding a little bit in round the edge of it there. A little bit around there. Just pulling that slightly down into the other colours from the sunrise there. So just pulling the landmass colours down a little bit. And this is where I'll probably go along with the tip. I'm angling it a bit so I can easily get it. Just with the tip of my palette knife and scratch back into that to get a little and just adding in some of those darker cloud reflections as I go into there. Now I can put a little bit of the horizontal by just dragging a few lines through those reflections there. It's more colourful, it's more interesting already, and I am happier with it. Whether I'm happy with that, I don't know. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more of the yellowy pinks with the Naples yellow and the alizarin and the texture gel and a bit of white. I'm just going to add a little bit more on the tops of some of those dark just to tone them down slightly. Some of that's a little bit darker, and that's going back into this mix here of reflections, just pulling them down. And I don't want to forget this area over here, so and I've got this nasty little edge there. So what I'm doing is just working my knife through it so it mixes a little bit better. I can put in another mixture here, which I'm making, which is cerulean blue, a little bit of aqua, a little bit of the purple, and a little bit of the toning white, the gloss medium, just to give me a little bit of some hints of blues in the water as well, in a few little spots, because there's a little bit of blue in the sky there, and we want to see that as well in there. And then I'm just going to do that whole slide it through there to give me a sense of the surface of the water. This just needs a little tidy up there. I lost it a little bit, so I'm putting a bit more of the purple back in, so I'll get a nice dark mix. And I'm just going to pop that back in with the edge of my palette knife, making some nice textural marks there. And dragging that along, dragging a little bit of it down. And if I want to smooth that out a bit, I can just take a brush, and some of these spots where I want to smooth it out, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a run through with my brush. I've just dipped it in a slight amount of water, a little tiny bit of water. That just helps me get the effect I'm after. Just because you're using the palette knife doesn't mean you have to use it for everything. So I find that's still a little bit rough, and that's getting a bit of a smooth off too. Down in this area, I'm just going to pull a little bit of the darker colours through the beach there. So back I go, and I'll need to mix up some more now. I'm running out. So a little bit of the gel, a bit of the purple. I'm going to put in some of that blue too, without going too far. And I've run out of the tinting white, so I'll just put a little bit more of that there. And one good tip is to use a pile of, make two piles of your tinting white, and use one for your light colours and one for your darker colours. And now I'm just going to run that across the beach area there. If I want a bit of variety, I can just pick up some straight purple and run it through there as well. I don't want it too dark at this stage. I just want to see how it looks like this. So I'm happy to have that bit of texture, and I'm just going to run it. And then I can make a little... There was a wave in the first one. I'm just going to make the wave now by using darker colour and the edge of my palette knife to just pull it over in the direction that a wave would be breaking. And I'm letting some of that colour show through. Then I'm getting a little bit of the white, tinting that up with a few of the different colours from the sunset. Mixing those up with a bit of the gloss medium. I accidentally picked up some... When I first did this, I thought I might use some of the cadmium yellow light, but I'm much preferring the Naples yellow, so I don't want to go anywhere near that because it's going to make it too too limey and yellowy. So some of those colours are now going to get mixed up around here for this, the kind of surf area. A little bit of surf, and I'm just squiggling on the, picking it up with my palette knife and squiggling it on to make a nice bit of vibrant, interesting texture there. And then to get a nice little rim of it there, white tinted with a tiny bit of the yellow, tiny bit of the alizarin. I'm just having a day where I can't say that word. You know what I mean. And then I'm taking that and just making a nice little ripple along there, patting in a little bit of that onto here in a sort of squiggly way, and pulling some of it over on the wave face as well. And then in here I'm just going to take my palette knife and squiggle it through there to get those random sort of patterns you get at the water's edge. Just wriggling it around, getting the nice random patterns of the foam. I might want to put a couple more. Let's see what I think about that now. So I've got an interesting sky. I've got a good landmass there. Maybe I want a few more darks in here. So what I'm just doing is picking up the purple and just making that wave a little bit more pronounced. And I'm happy to pull through some of the pinky colours as well as I'm pulling it through. So happily pulling through some of the light pinker colours. And it's that whole movement with the, so you want to cover that up, it was the wrong colour from the painting underneath. Just doing that flick with your hand in the direction that the waves would go. Here again I've got the wrong colour from underneath the previous painting, so I want to give that a bit of a cover up. And then down here where it comes crashing into the waves, a little bit of mix up with the surf coming through there and the foam. I am a bit unhappy with some small areas up here. I think that's gone too purple, and I'm just using my brush to even it out slightly there as well. So a few of those little spots I just want to, that's better. And now, is there anything else I want to do with that? Again, it's all just down to my imagination now. I really did like those little bits of aqua in there, turquoise, so I'm just going to mix up a little bit of that and try and get some of it in the... It's because it mixed with the Naples yellow, so a little bit of the Naples yellow going in with it. And I want to use a little bit of that down in the water there. Quite liked it, it's got a nice... sort of a reminder of what the day is going to become once the sunrise is finished. And then I might take my brush and just give it a bit of a couple of just a little bit in here, just a hint of it. So I've reworked that painting, I've given it a new lease of life. I'm going to put in some little shells down here, and they just need a little sort of dab of with the palette knife, some little shells. I'm just scraping off whatever colour I've got left on here to use for the shells. decided that one more thing I might do is add in a little bird. And so I might do that just for a bit of interest. And I'm going to use the brush and just flick in a little bird. I don't want it to be too cheesy, so I've got to be careful about that. And that one didn't come out very well. So I'm just taking it out. Isn't that nice and easy? Just want a really tiny bird. So I'm just making it quite fine. I'll need to move this around a little bit. Sorry, to put it on a bit of an angle there. And then that's better. A much finer bird. And try and put them on a different angle as you put each bird in. Oh. Doesn't really want to go in because the paint's really wet underneath it and it's just picking up there. Oh no, actually let's leave that in. I'll make a much bigger bird there. So I've got some varying sizes of the birds, and maybe a little one back there. I might just have to wait till it's dry to add in the birds. The other thing I could do for those birds is squeeze out a little bit more purple. And make them a little bit more, a bit more paint on there. So for example, there I go with that bird. And I'm trying to give the impression of flight there with that one. Then I've got this little one down here, which is getting a little bit more colour on him too. Just got to pick enough up to drag it across the surface without collecting everything underneath it. So the birds are flying around. I can clean up that bit there by just dragging it with my brush. And I could even, if I wanted to, add in a bit of a bird down here. And for this one I'm going to, it's just a seagull in the morning. Will I keep it? I don't know. What I might try doing is, using my palette knife again, just so it's a little bit of consistency across the painting. Remember, I'm just making this up as I go, so I'm taking a small palette knife, a little bit of white, tinting white, mixed in with the blue and purple, just to make a nice neutral sort of colour. And then, oops, I'll need a fair amount of it on my palette knife. This is often the problem when you're working with a palette knife. You don't make enough paint mix, and then you haven't got enough to pick it up properly, and so it doesn't work out right. So I'm just adding some of that structure medium to it as well. Now let's try just dabbing it on. There's its head. And now I just need to give it a little tail, which is going to be really dark. So pop out a slight more amount of purple and give it quite a dark tail, kind of flicking up like so. Does it look like a seagull? I don't know. Let's try giving it some legs. So I'm just going to go in with my small brush and give it some actually some magenta-y kind of legs there. That does make it a bit better. I'm also going to make it a little bit more, a little bit slightly, I don't want it white, but Just using my brush to give it a bit more definition, so I can add in that very dark tail on it. I don't think I want that. So this is the beauty. I'm imagining it, reimagining it. I can do whatever I like. So out with the seagull. Don't like your seagull, and all I do is run my brush through it, my palette knife through it, loaded with some other paint, and erase all memory of that bird. The other thing I quite like using is my finger in here. I'm going to add a little bit of blue into that mix as well, just some little bits of blue. And one thing that works very well with this is to just take it and pat it. And you see on the texture underneath, the blue is just clinging to the texture. So if you do that with a number of different colours, you can get a nice little bit of texture going in that wavy area there. I've got the little shells, and I'm just going to give them a small amount of sort of backlit shadow bits around them, just for, again, for a little bit of contrast. They're kind of backlit by the and I want a little bit more of the surfy bit there, so I'm just going to put in a little bit more of the tinting white, and I'm going to mix up a little bit more Naples yellow with some of that, and a touch of the pink. I just need the tiniest little touch, and you can see I'm just mixing it up there to make a nice soft pinky sort of colour, so I can drag a bit more across there for the surf. I'm going to actually pull a little bit of that through that wave as well. I think the last thing I want to do is actually make that wave a little bit darker, so I'm just taking some more of the purple, mixing that up with some of the blue and a little bit of the aqua, not too much of the aqua. And the last bit of my gel medium, so I'm just mixing all that up together, taking a big chunk of it and just making that wave slightly more visible. I can take some of it and run a line through there as well for another small wave out there. If I think I've gone too far with it again, I can just use my brush to just even it out a little bit. Right, the other thing I'm going to do is just make the smallest little amount of tinted pink and Naples yellow, alizarin, and a little bit of that. And that's just going to be a little bit of a touch on the bird, on both those birds. Just to give them a little bit of the sunset colours on them. So there we have it, my reimagined sunset. I like it much better than what I had there before. Let's just turn this light off and see if you can, how you can see it there without so much shine on it. I like it better because it's got, and having said that, I'm going to now actually go in, take a bit of that I just think I need a little bit more yellow there, so a little tiny bit of the Naples. I just want a bit more yellow in this part of it. I didn't think it was quite yellow enough. Just needs to be slightly darker down in there where I've yellowed it up. I've made it a little bit too light, so just go back in again with a bit more of the and then I just have to finish those edges again because I've messed with them. Pop a little bit along there. Oops, just need a steady hand. That's good. And just a little scratch back into there. That is better. If I wanted to, I could add a slight light line along here by using the edge of my palette knife again. Just something a little bit lighter than the hills of the landmass there. So just a little suggestion of light on the water there. Okay, I am calling that done. All I have to do is sign it. How will I sign it? I'm going to look for a colour that I liked out of there. It's probably going to be a little bit of the yellow, the Naples yellow with a little bit of the white in it. So I just need to put a slight amount of that out again. Mix myself up a little batch of that. And I don't need my signature to be too fiddly because it's not a fiddly painting really. So I've just made up myself a little pinky, yellowy, peachy kind of colour. I will add in a slight amount of the liquefying medium. That just helps me get it nice and easy to work with. So in comes the liquefying medium. So it's just a little squirt on the liquid on there, and then I mix it up with my brush, and then I'm going to sign it down here. And there we have it, all done, a reimagining of a painting I'd already done, and I actually like it much better this way. The one thing I am going to do is in a little area here, just picking up some of that, and I'm just going to brush on a few bits of the, so using my brush just to get a few softer reflections in the sand there, and I'm mixing up a nice purer batch of that pinks and yellows and just brushing a few of them for a little bit of a smoother look compared to the rest of the painting. So you get the idea of some reflections in a smoother bit of wet sand there. If you're trying to depict the wet sand, just putting it on in a nice smooth fashion makes you think it's nice wet reflective sand. Okay, how many times do I say it's finished? But it is finished now. I hope you enjoyed that reimagining of this little acrylic painting, and that you don't give up on your paintings. If you think they're not quite what you wanted, just give them a little bit of a reinvention. Okay, see you next time. Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed that reimagining of a previous painting. What I'd like you to think about is, don't despair if your paintings aren't going the way you think they should. Leave them for a while and then come back to them later, Don't get out your reference photo, just work with what you have on the canvas or on your pastel paper and work from there based on the emotion and the feeling that you get from the painting that you already had, what you remember about the original one, and let it be a little bit more intuitive, and you might find that you come out with a painting that you much prefer to the one that you had. Hope you enjoyed that quick lesson today, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.